Hey guys, and welcome to another Q&A Monday video. In this video I'm trying to answer as many of your questions as I can in as much detail as possible. I get so many questions every single day, so if I don't get to your question in this video, don't panic, I might get to it in the next one. If not, just drop it down in the comments and I'll try to answer it as soon as I can. So without further ado, let's jump into the first question. Michelleriles asks, do you think it's you that's haunted? Yeah, I would definitely say that it's me that's haunted. I first noticed that really in my second year of uni. This was 2 years after the initial videos had gone online. I'd done the whole investigating thing back home, I'd moved away and the activity had stopped there, but it had also stopped for me. It's not like anything was going on. So I just assumed the activity had stopped because I'd stopped filming it. And then in my second year of uni, 2 years after moving out, I was doing a lighting test on camera and I came across the footage of the fridge door opening and closing in the background. It was then that I realised something unusual was going on again. Started filming and it kind of all became clear at that point that it wasn't the house, it was definitely me. And it's happened ever since. I've moved twice since then, and here I am. I'm still making videos and still investigating, still getting activity. So yeah, it's definitely me. The Dalton Experience asks, how old were you when you began noticing paranormal activity was happening to you? So I was about 20 years old when I first started experiencing paranormal activity myself. It was back in 2010. It was actually the same time I started filming the activity was when I started experiencing it for myself, is because I started filming as a response to what Robert was saying, because he said the house was haunted. I hadn't experienced anything myself. I was a complete skeptic. I started filming and then I started experiencing things, and I think it was all triggered by the fact that I was actively searching for it as opposed to just being the skeptic and ignoring anything that could have been supernatural at the time. So yeah, back in 2010 is when I first started seeing things. Anthony James asks, can you give us a basic rundown on how many and maybe what and who is haunting you? I can give you a very quick rundown. Basically, at the moment, there are only 2 spirits that are what I would consider residential spirits. They are here pretty much all the time. The first one is Daniel, and he's not just here, he is with me all the time. He's kind of like a guardian angel, like spirit guide, protector spirit. Now, I say angel loosely, it's just that kind of figure. I don't think he's an angel or anything like that. He's a spirit that's around and he's protecting me. He's been around for about 2 years, or at least he's been known to me for about 2 years. He showed himself when I was being followed by that dark entity before, the more demonic presence that had followed me for the 4 years previous to that. And the other one is Anna, and she's a young girl, and she's 24. She died in 1912. She was born in 1888, so she was 24 when she died, and she died under quite tragic circumstances. I learnt this through a spirit box session with her and Daniel, in which I found out she was actually raped and killed, or at least that's what I took away from the session. There was no like confirmation of it, but if you watch the session, you'll understand that is the vibe you get from it. That's my understanding of it, and she's in need of help, and so she's around a lot, and I try to communicate with her. Other than that, it's just the basic spirits that come and go. Sometimes they're there and I get a name through and then I'll never hear it again. So it's a bit hit and miss with the others. Michelle Jean Crook asks, I would love to know how you cope with all the paranormal activity around you all the time. So as far as being surrounded by paranormal activity all the time, that's not necessarily true. It's sometimes hard to get a good sense of how much activity there is in the house when you've only got the videos of activity to go on. So once a week I'll try to post a new experiment video or something that I've caught on my nightly shoots. If I don't catch anything, I'll generally shoot an analysis video breaking down some of the activity on a previous experiment. And from that, it genuinely appears like I'm capturing activity all the time, like I must be just surrounded by it. It's not always the case. Like when I do a new experiment, generally it's the 3rd or 4th attempt at that experiment before I really get anything worth showing. You look at the dates on the nightly footage, it's so few and far between. It's not like kicking off all the time, like there was always footsteps, and whenever I'm trying to sleep there's people mooching and throwing things around downstairs. It's not quite like that. It's the reason I'm able to sit here right now and do a Q&A without anything kicking off in the background, is because it might be days from now before I actually start to hear things again, and at that point I'll become more active in my filming and try to capture something for the next video that I post here, and so on and so forth. So I'm not really surrounded all the time. It just kind of appears that way when you watch my videos as I post them. That aside, how do I cope with it? I think after so long being surrounded by this stuff, you just kind of come to terms with it. There's no real secret to it. I think when you're surrounded by anything for long enough, you just learn to accept it. If I was an obsessive kind of person and I dwelt on this all the time, it would probably drive me mad and it would consume me. But instead, I just accept that this is just part of me. It's another thing that's going to happen. So I just don't dwell on it too much. I just get on with my life and do the videos and experiments on the side, and it's just part and parcel of it, really. Julie Calloz asks, do you think you'll try to stay connected to the spirits you've interacted with? That's a really good question. I've actually thought about what I would do once they're gone, to be honest. With spirits like Anna, who I'm trying, my main goal is to help them cross over, you know what I mean? I want to help them move on to whatever it is that they need to go on to. Once they got there, I don't think I'd really be, even though like there's been a bit of a rapport made, there's a kind of a relationship there, I wouldn't go chasing them after said crossing over. I don't think I'd, as much as I'd like that confirmation that they've gone to a better place, I don't think I'd go trying to summon anybody in that has already moved on. We've had spirits in the past, like Peter, who he more or less, he was here for maybe 2 weeks, and I had a communication with him, but then he was gone. And I do believe that that's very much just part of ghosts not being necessarily tied down to a location. I do believe some are, but I do think some just, they're able to go where they will. And if Peter's come, he's got what he wants, and then he's left, then, you know, great, I'm not going to go chasing him to find out what happened next. As much as I'm curious, I think I've just kind of got to let that lie, otherwise I'd spend my life just chasing ghosts. Rissa Wolf asks, have you thought about bringing in any outside experts, paranormal investigator teams, mediums, etc., like Lorraine Warren? Also, would your girlfriend ever be willing to co-star in a video so that we can hear her take on it? So as far as my girlfriend's concerned, no, she's not going to be on any videos anytime soon. She's certainly not going to be joining me on any investigations. She's interested in the stuff. She's perfectly happy to watch the stuff I show her, but she's not going to be starring in any videos. It's sometimes hard to forget on YouTube that some people just don't want to be on camera. They certainly don't want their faces broadcasting on the internet, and you need a pretty thick skin for YouTube. And the kind of comments you often get, it's just, some people just don't want that. So I'm respecting her wishes and keeping her out of it. You will have also noticed that over the last couple of months, I've kind of mentioned her less and less. We are still together. It's just that she just wants to be kept separate from all of this. So that's how we stand on that. As for other paranormal investigation teams and, you know, mediums and stuff, it's coming to a point now where I'm investigating more and more, and I'm getting some good stuff, and I'm using lots of different equipment that I kind of don't see the need, like, for my own personal development, to bring in anybody else. But as far as a medium is concerned, I've mentioned it in comments in the past that I am actually looking into trying to get a medium. People, again, not everyone wants to be on camera, so I'm trying to find somebody that is willing to come in, do some sort of reading, feel out the area, but is happy for me to record them. Not everyone does, and especially on a subject like this, because no one wants to be, they don't want to be the subject of speculation and skeptics' wrath on the internet. It's just not, it's not for everyone. So I am looking into a medium, and if it comes to it and I can't find one that is perfectly happy to be on camera and wants that publicity, then I will just do it off camera and tell you guys about it afterwards. So yeah. Vanessa Cam asks, would you allow strangers to stay at your home to experience the paranormal activity? Providing they were trustworthy, of course. The problem with that for me is that I don't think it's possible to completely trust a stranger. I think trust is something you earn, and if I don't know the person, then they're certainly not going to have my trust. It needs to be someone that I know. And I think partially there's this big risk in letting them in. For a start, there's the fact that my address could end up online. I've mentioned before that I don't want the house to become a circus. Like, I still live here. Like, if I ever moved away and I still own this place, then yeah, that's one thing. But while I'm here, I don't want anyone to know my address. I don't want people knocking on my door because they've heard ghost stories about my house or anything like that. Second to that, there is the risk that this house has stuff in it. This has personal belongings. It has expensive equipment that I don't want robbing. So it has to be someone that is very, very trustworthy. And I don't think I could meet someone who specifically wants to investigate the house and then get to know them, because they could just as easily deceive me just to get into the house. You know what I mean? And so I think it would have to be someone that I've met, got to know, they found out I'm haunted, and then they wanted to investigate. And at that point, I would probably trust them enough to do it. But I wouldn't go hunting for someone specifically to come and spend the night at my house, because the internet's full of weirdos, unfortunately. Paul Faircloth asks, many people use Ouija boards to good effect. Done properly, it can be an amazing form of contact, albeit very close and personal. Have you ever tried this method, Michael? No, I've not tried a Ouija board, and I kind of answered the Ouija board question in one of the first Q&As I did, but I've got a little bit more detail for you. I have thought about the Ouija board. I have considered it, because it is a very direct line of communication. They literally spell out whatever they want to say. There's no interpretation like there is with EVP. There's no mishearing anything like there can be with ghost box sessions. No interference or anything like that. It is literally just you and a board of letters, and it spells out what he wants. So that's great, and it is very attractive, and it's appealing as a form of communication. But my issue with it is it just feels ritualistic. I don't know what it is. I just get bad vibes from the idea of having it. I've never touched one. I've never had one. I've never owned it. Never brought it in the house or anything like that. And me and Shauna have got an agreement where she's perfectly happy for me to do these investigations and communicate with what tools I have, but she doesn't really want me to bring in Ouija boards, because there are too many horror stories out there about opening portals up and not being able to close them. And I appreciate that it's not greatly different from doing a ghost box session where you're asking someone to come forward and speak to you. But I've done the ghost box sessions enough, and I've not yet had anything bad happen. But like I say, there's just something about the Ouija board that just, the whole planchette thing, you know what I mean? There are rules you've got to follow to open and close the session, and it just feels ritualistic, and I'm just not willing to risk that just yet. If I was to do it, I would do it somewhere else with somebody that knows what they're doing, someone who's done it a lot, some kind of expert in the subject. Maybe get a feel for it, learn the ropes, and you know what I mean, get that experience, and hopefully then maybe bring it back, but not until I am fully comfortable with it. So yeah, no Ouija boards just yet, but possibly in the future. Stephanie Packdell asks, I've been wondering if you follow any other people who post paranormal videos on YouTube and what you think of them. There's one in particular that seems very interesting, and I've been wondering if he's real. I do actually follow quite a lot of paranormal YouTubers online. They actually make up the bulk of my subscriptions. One in particular that I follow quite religiously is Tom Buckmaster. He's another English investigator, and he has a very similar situation to mine where his house is haunted and he kind of investigates into it. But as well as that, he actually does a show called Haunted Finders, which him and another group of people go out to well-known haunted locations, like they recently did 30 East Drive, and they investigate and stuff, and it's very good. And recently he started doing sort of lone investigations out into local hotspots, so like medieval graveyards, haunted forests, that kind of thing, places with a lot of urban legends and, you know what I mean, paranormal stories about them. And he'll go out on his own with a few bits of equipment and just shoot a video in the moment, and it's very raw, and it's quite entertaining to watch. As well as that, there's a bunch of different investigators like Spirit Box Sessions and Dorset Ghost Investigators. They're one of the bigger British paranormal YouTube channels, and they're very good. They do top fives and stuff all the time, so they're very entertaining. So yeah, check them out, guys. And if you have any that you recommend I watch, do let me know, and I'll check them out, because I'm always open to watching new stuff. Christina asks, would you raise a child in this house? That's actually a really good question. It is something I've thought about in the past, but it's not something I really worry about at the moment because I'm not exactly in a rush to have a child anytime soon. But I've got to be honest, I think more than anything it boils down to whether or not I want to bring up a child or not have one at all, because it seems to me that I'm going to be surrounded by spirits no matter what. I mean, I could stop investigating and hope that that quiets the activity down, ask any spirits to leave, ask Daniel to help me maintain that kind of peace, but I think I'm going to be surrounded by spirits no matter what. So like I say, it boils down to whether I want to bring up a child with spirits around or I just choose not to bring one up. I don't think there is the choice of bringing one up without spirits around. Like bringing them up in another house wouldn't make a difference because I've moved house like 4 times since this all started and I'm still surrounded by spirits. So it is a hard choice. I would have obviously do whatever I could to stop the activity if it came to that choice, because I wouldn't put the child at risk of anything in that circumstance. So yeah, it's a very good question, and definitely something I think about much more when the time comes. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about that at the moment. Alondra asks, what's the most intense and terrifying thing that has happened to you not on camera? So probably the scariest experience I've had off camera, when not like actively investigating, happened in my 2nd year of uni, and it actually followed something I did catch on camera. Now, you'll have seen the video, part 4.1, I believe, where there's footsteps on the stairs, and when I go out and investigate, it comes sprinting up the stairs and into the bathroom. Now, back then it was very, very active, and it was quite, you know what I mean, quite scary in pretty much everything that it did. It seemed to be going out of its way to scare me. So a couple of days later, I was leaving bedroom, was going down. I think I was going to get a brew or something like that. And as I was halfway down the stairs, I heard footsteps on the bottom of the stairs. Now, obviously, I'd seen what happened last time, so I decided to turn around and just go back to my bedroom and leave it where it is. I don't want to pass it. I don't know if it's physical or what have you. So I turned to go back upstairs and I heard footsteps upstairs, and it just felt like I was sort of being surrounded. Now, I don't know if it was echo or my mind playing tricks on me, but I genuinely felt like they were on both sides and they were coming in and they were trying to get me. So I just sort of panicked and bolted from the house. Nothing really came of it, but that has got to be the most vulnerable and scared I've been when I was just going about my normal business. I wasn't even investigating or doing anything to provoke it. So yeah, that's probably the scariest story I've got for you on that one. And so that's it for this Q&A video, guys. I hope I answered your questions in enough detail, and if I didn't get to your question, like I said, don't panic, I might get to it in the next one. If not, drop it down in the comments and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll post any and all activity as and when I get it.